Okay, so let's start with a story. A story which was written by Leo Tolstoy, a famous Russian writer. There were two horses. Both were carrying the same amount of goods. The horse in the front was hard-working. It was putting in all its strength, working hard and sweating in the hot sun. The horse behind it was lazy. It walked slowly and kept trying to avoid work. The owner noticed that the horse in the back was not working, so he took its load and placed it on the hard-working horse in front. Now the horse in front had double the burden. It started working even more harder. The horse in the back was moving comfortably with no load. The lazy horse mocked the other one, saying, "Work hard and suffer, you idiot. The more you work, the more your burden will increase." Evening came and both horses reached the inn. Now the owner thought, what is the point of feeding two horses when only one is doing all the work? Then he told his servant, "Give the hard-working horse a full meal and cut the throat of the lazy one. At least its leather will make some money." And that's exactly what he did. Now you might be thinking, okay, the lazy one died. You reap what you sow. But wait, what happened to the hard-working horse? The story doesn't mention his future, but think about it. That horse kept working hard its whole life. It grew old and became weak, and one day it could no longer work. Then its throat was also cut down. Its leather was also sold in the market. This story is about something else. It's about the difference between hard work and necessity. The lazy horse was killed because it was not needed. Did the hard-working horse survive? Yes, but for some time, as long as it was needed. The point is, hard work doesn't save you. Being needed does. The day the need ends, you end too. This is Law 11 from the 48 Laws of Power. Law 11 says, learn to keep people dependent on you. In other words, create such a need that people cannot function without you. The more people depend on you, the more secure you are. Never teach them so much that they no longer need you. It sounds smart and it sounds practical, but is it really that simple? Are there no downsides? Does it work in every situation? Today, I will explain this law to you, but not the way most people explain it. I will show you both sides, the advantages and the disadvantages. Like, when does this law work? When does it not? Then you can decide whether this game is for you or not. Now, Robert Greene gives some examples in this law. Let's understand them one by one. This is a story from the 14th century. In Italy, there was a small city called Siena. One day, enemies attacked the city with a large army. The city's own army was too weak. It seemed like the city would be destroyed that single day. People were trembling with fear. Women were hiding their children. Old men were praying to God. Then a mercenary soldier appeared. A mercenary means a hired soldier who fights for money. His loyalty is not to anyone, only to payment. That soldier risked his life. There aren't many details about how he did it, but somehow he alone managed to drive the enemies away. He saved the city alone. The people of Siena went crazy with happiness. Our hero, our savior, he saved us. Now the question was, what reward should they give this soldier? How much money is enough for saving an entire city? What do you think? Millions, but it still felt too little. Honor and medals also felt small in front of him for what he did for the city. Someone suggested, make him the king of the city, but even that didn't seem enough. So the citizens of Siena held a big meeting. Everyone gathered in that meeting. They debated for a long time. Finally, one man stood up and said, "Friends, whatever we give him will be too little. We can never repay this debt, but if we give him power, tomorrow he will rule over us. Today, he is a hero. Tomorrow, he could become a tyrant. So let's do one thing. Let's kill him, and then build a statue of him and worship him like a saint." Everyone agreed. They invited the soldier, honored him, and that night they cut off his head. The next day they built his statue in the center of the city. Now, he was the city's saint. Now stop and think for a moment. This man was a hero. He saved the entire city. Without him, Siena might not exist today. So why they killed him? Because his job was finished. The enemies had already fled. The city no longer needed him. Instead, he had become a problem. They would have had to give him money and power the city could not afford. And if they gave him power, he might seize control of the city. So the easiest solution was kill him and build a statue of him. Statues don't need money. Statues don't demand power, and statues don't rebel. Now you might ask, but wait, he was brave. He saved the city alone. Where will they find another man like him? It's a good question, but think about it. The city didn't need to fight enemies every day. This was an emergency. The emergency ended, so the soldiers' need was also ended. If another attack happened later, they could hire another mercenary. Maybe not as good, but good enough and cheaper. The point is not that the man wasn't talented. He was extremely talented. The point is, he didn't keep himself necessary. He thought his work would speak for itself. But work doesn't speak. Need speaks. The day the need ends, your value also ends. Now come the second example. The second example is even darker. In 1442, in Venice, Italy, a powerful city built in the sea, there was a famous soldier called Count of Carmagnola. Count was a title, like a noble title, and Carmagnola was the place he came from. This man was one of the bravest and most successful soldiers in Italy. Every battle he fought, he won. Wherever he went, enemies fled away. At that time, he was working for Venice, which was at war with Florence. He had won many battles for Venice. One day, the Count was called back to Venice. When he arrived, he received a grand welcome. Flowers were spread across the streets. People shouted his name, "Count! Count!" And he was the most loved man in the city. That evening, he was invited for dinner at the Duke's palace. The Duke was the most powerful man in Venice, like a king. Guards escorted him inside. But something felt strange. They were not taking the usual route. They walked him through unfamiliar corridors. Then they crossed a bridge called the Bridge of Sighs. It got that name because prisoners were taken to jail across that bridge. As they crossed, they would look out of the window one last time and sigh. The moment the Count saw the bridge, he understood. He wasn't going to the dinner. He was being taken to prison. The next day, false accusations were announced against him. In Piazza San Marco, the largest square in Venice, the same place where people had cheered him the day before, his head was cut off from his body. People stood there confused. How did yesterday's hero become today's criminal? After hearing these stories, you might think the message is simple. Be necessary or you will die. But wait, it's not that simple. First, these stories are from the 14th and 15th centuries. Kings actually used to cut off heads back then. Today, your boss won't cut off your head. At worst, he will fire you. Second, these men were mercenaries, hired soldiers. They had no permanent place. As long as there was war, there was work. When the war ended, their job also ended. Your situation might be different. So before blindly following this law, you must understand where it applies and where it doesn't. But before that, I have a question. If being needed is everything, how do we create that need? Is there any formula? Yes, there is. And one man used this formula brilliantly. In 1847, in Germany, which at that time was divided into small states, there was a state called Prussia. A 32-year-old man became a deputy in its parliament. His name was Otto von Bismarck. He had no friends there, no supporters, and no alliances. He looked around. The parliament had liberals who wanted change, conservatives who wanted the old system, and powerful ministers with their own groups. Most ambitious young men would join a powerful group to gain influence. Bismarck did something strange. He chose to support King Frederick William IV. This was strange because the king was the weakest man in Prussia. He was king only in name. The parliament dominated him. He lacked confidence and couldn't make decisions, and smart people avoided him. But Bismarck went to him. Why? Because Bismarck understood something. If he joined powerful groups, they would use him and throw him away. They didn't need him. They already had everything. But a weak king needed support, strength, and direction. Bismarck helped the king. Whenever Parliament attacked him, Bismarck stood beside him. He advised him, encouraged him, and covered his weaknesses. Slowly, he rebuilt the king's power. Soon, the king couldn't function without Bismarck. He became completely dependent on him. Bismarck had become the most necessary man in Prussia. In 1861, Frederick died, and his brother William became king. William didn't like Bismarck at all. He didn't want him around. But soon, William also faced crises. Enemies were everywhere. Parliament was out of control. His throne was in danger. He needed someone. And again, Bismarck stepped in. He helped him regain power. William hated Bismarck, but couldn't live without him. Bismarck became the prime minister. They often fought over policies and decisions, but whenever things escalated, Bismarck threatened to resign. Each time William backed down, because losing Bismarck would be too costly. On paper, William was king. In reality, the real power was with Bismarck. But look at the other side. Bismarck spent 40 years serving two kings he didn't even personally like. He had no personal life. He had to stay close to the king all the time, always alert that someone might replace him. And most importantly, William hated him. Dependency gives power, yes, but dependency is never one-sided. If the king depended on Bismarck, Bismarck also depended on the king. In theory, the king could remove him any time. He made himself indispensable, but he also locked himself in a cage. A golden cage, but still a cage. Let me tell you another fascinating story. Involves King Louis XI of France, known as the Spider King, because he spun political webs like a spider. He was cunning and conspiratorial. He had one weakness. He strongly believed in astrology. He kept an astrologer in his court. One day, the astrologer predicted that a woman in the court would die within 8 days, and she actually died. The king got frightened. Either the astrologer had arranged her death to prove himself right, or he truly had the power to see the future. Either way, he seemed dangerous. The king decided to kill him. One evening, he called the astrologer to the highest room in the castle. Below was a deep pit. Soldiers were already instructed to throw him out the window once the king signaled. Before giving the signal, the king asked him a question. "You can see the future. Tell me your own future. When will you die?" The astrologer paused and then replied, "Your Majesty, the stars play strange games. I will die exactly 3 days before you." The room fell silent. The king's hand stopped. The signal never came out. From that day on, the king took special care of the astrologer. Gifts, doctors, comfort, and everything. Why? Because now the king believed his life was connected to the astrologer's life. If the astrologer died, the king feared he would die 3 days later. With a single sentence, the astrologer saved his life. But again, think about the astrologer's life. Every day he knew the king didn't like him. The king feared him. He was alive only because the king believed his life depended on him. He had power, yes, but was he free? Probably not. Both were prisoners of each other. Dependency gives power, but that power doesn't come with peace of mind. It comes with fear and paranoia. Now, the main point is, these days, many 18 to 20-year-old boys read the 48 Laws of Power and think they have become Machiavelli. They think they will manipulate everyone and rule the world. That is the biggest mistake. Think about it. If Bismarck didn't have intelligence and political understanding, could he help the king? No. If the astrologer didn't have quick thinking, could he save his life? No. If the mercenary didn't have fighting skills, could he save the city? Of course not. To create dependency, you must have value, skill, and knowledge. If you have nothing that anyone needs, how will you create dependency? No one depends on an empty vessel. So if you're 20 years old and think this law will make you powerful overnight, stop. First, build skills. First, create value and achieve something. When you have something rare that others need, this law will start working automatically. Without a foundation, you can't build a palace.
And without value, you can't gain power. Look at this law in your own life. If you do work that anyone can do, like data entry, simple emails, and basic tasks, you are completely replaceable. Tomorrow, someone cheaper will appear and your boss will replace you, or maybe AI will replace you. But if you do something only you can do, maybe you manage an important client, maybe you are an expert in a complex software, maybe you solve problems everyone else avoids, then you become indispensable. Your boss might scold you, but he wouldn't have enough balls to fire you. This applies to friendships too. If you're just a yes-man friend, you're replaceable. But if you're the friend who stands first in difficult times, gives honest advice, and supports others, then you become indispensable. It applies to relationships too, but remember a bitter truth. Dependency does not mean love. Your boss might depend on you, but that doesn't mean he likes you. He might even hate the fact that he needs you. King William hated Bismarck. Louis XI feared his astrologer. Dependency is a transaction, not a relationship. If you are looking for genuine love and friendship, don't apply this law there. Because if someone is with you only because they need you, the relationship ends the day the need ends. Love is when people stay even when they don't need you. So understand the difference. Create dependency in professional life. It's useful, but in personal life, think carefully, my friend. In the end, let me tell you a bitter truth. The soldier of Siena was killed because his need was ended. The lazy horse was killed because he wasn't needed. What will happen to you depends on how necessary you can make yourself. Loyalty is good, honesty is good, hard work is good, but being needed is greater than all of them. People may or may not love you, but they should need you. Machiavelli once said, "It is better to be feared than loved." But I would say, it is better to be needed than liked. Because liking changes like the weather. Today they like you, tomorrow they don't. But need can force people to do things they never wanted to do. So ask yourself, if I disappear tomorrow, will anyone really care? Or will 10 people be waiting to replace me? If the answer is that 10 people are waiting, my friend, you are in danger. Make yourself indispensable or be ready to be replaced. The choice is yours, my friend. Thank you for watching and see you in the next amazing video.